Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Sim Race South Africa. It's Monday night once again, and that means we're back here for some epic Division 1 racing. And we're back in a Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're right at the sharp end of the season now, round 5, and it's going to take us to Suzuka. It's a bit of a weird night. Obviously, we've got load shedding throughout the country, so we've got a few guys frantically trying to get into the server, a few that are unfortunately going to miss it tonight, and a few that possibly be watching this stream instead of racing. So if that is you, then welcome, good to have you. Sorry you can't race, but let's enjoy it anyway. Keep me company in chat. I'm on my own tonight. Nick Hodgson is away, so he will not be joining me in stream. So I'll be fielding all of your questions. I'm hoping that you can help me out during the stream if I miss anything. Obviously, we've still got a pretty full grid, not quite 40 cars, but last time I checked, there was, let's have a look on the server, 27 cars on server. So still got an epic grid to look forward to, and we're on an epic track. We're back at Suzuka, the king of Asia, the king track of Asia. So let's get over there and see what we've got. So I'll take us straight to the track. And here we are at Suzuka, and you'll notice immediately that it's pretty wet, which is in keeping with what this track's quite famous for, and that's some pretty dodgy weather. And it doesn't need it because it's quite technically challenging as it is. But welcome to those that have joined us live in stream already. There's already 20 odd watching, maybe some in the dark on their phones. But it's good to have you here. Nice to have some company tonight. Keep the chat rolling. I've got the chat right in front of me, so I shouldn't miss anything. So I'm really relying on you guys. But this is round 5 of Sim Race South Africa's simGT series. Right at the end of the season, the penultimate race, and it's really started to hot up as far as championship goes. Let's go through the usuals, and we're going to start by taking a look at the weather. We know that it's wet already. We can see that clearly. So will it be wet for the whole race? We don't know. This is the weather settings that have used on the server. Only 10% rain level, 55% cloud cover, 19 degrees track temperature, which is quite a nice temperature to cope with as far as tyres go. Only light rain, so I'll be surprised with our progression that we have to have a full wet race. It will probably dry out at some point, but certainly now we see in qualifying in the background that it is indeed quite wet, and that'll have effect on these qualifying times. So that is the weather forecast. Starting race time will be 5 p.m. and it will finish in the dark, 9:30. So that is going to be very interesting how these guys cope, not only with the weather, but with changing visibility as well as we work into the darkness. Obviously, Suzuka being famous for one of the rounds of the IGT Championship, which Kailami shares with it. We haven't had it for the last couple of years due to COVID restrictions. I don't think it's on the calendar this year either, unfortunately, but the 10 hours of Suzuka will be back next year. Drivers love it. It's real drivers circuit. So that's the weather forecast. These guys have been lapping all week in HLQ. So how did they get on? We like to show off the leaders in HLQ, and right at the top of the standings we have Ross Bartle, which I'll be corrected by anyone, but I think that's the first time he's topped HLQ, so very well done to Ross Bartle. He's changed to the new Audi R8 Evo 2, which he's almost in preparation for next season, really, because he dropped all his championship points. That's going to hinder him a little bit, but he's really going to be familiar with it and hit the ground running in the next season, and he's got some pace, hasn't he? So he set the lead in HLQ with a 2 minutes 02. No, I haven't got the best time is actually wrong on there. I've taken that from the server, from the Discord, but it just says 12:02 a.m. But I'm sure the standings are correct. So Ross Bartle led from Zaya Esser, Chris Heineke in 3rd place, Philip Minnaar was 4th quickest, Bashir Jadwat, really unfortunate. He's one of the guys that has succumbed to load shedding tonight and won't be on the server. I think Zaya Esser is desperately trying to connect right now to get a lap in, so he's not on the leaderboard right now, but he's trying to head in because his load shedding finishes at 8:30, and it's important that he gets in for his championship hopes, because he's in a real battle with Philip Minnaar. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Hannes van Veek in 6th position, Marcus Steen 7th, who we're just looking in the background is leading now in qualifying on a wet Suzuka. So we'll see how that finishes. And 15 minutes left of qualifying, so we'll start looking at qualifying just shortly. Sean Schutt in 8th position, and Mark van Rensburg 9th. Lawrence Sterner in 10th position rounds out the top 10. So that's just the top 20 on the screen, but there were 40 that qualified for Division 1. Unfortunately, we're not going to have 40 on the circuit tonight. We're up to 28 for obvious reasons. But we still got a packed field, So let's have a look at Suzuka, remind ourselves of the layout. It's familiar to everyone, an absolute classic circuit. I mean, from sim races especially, because it was in like the very original Gran Turismo. So we've been lapping Suzuka for many a year, if you've been in the sim racing scene. And here we are. The first sector is just epic with those S-curves. First corner is obviously a little bit hell-raising. Very, very late apex and nice and wide, so massive passing opportunity, turn 1 and 2. Some cars, you'll see cars going deep there for sure in the wet. And then with the classic S-curves, which other tracks have copied. I'm thinking COTA in America has got a whole first sector that looks like it's just been copy and paste from this circuit. It just shows you how admired that section is. And trying to get your perfect line through there is quite difficult. Degner 1 and 2, turns 8 and 9. They look pretty simple on there, but they can catch many a driver out Degner 1 and 2. You mess it up there and there's not much runoff. You're onto the grass. Curbs also affecting, especially Degner 2, turn 9. That tight right-hander before you go under the bridge. Obviously a bit of a figure of 8 circuit, one of the only figure of 8 circuits in the world. Very few cross over themselves, but Suzuka is the most famous for that. Down towards the hairpin, pretty straightforward, the hairpin. Before we get up to the famous spoon curve, which really, really can be tricky to try and maximize your line through there, and your exit is so vital on the massive back straight from turn 14. Up to 15, it's not labelled, but it's the most famous corner right there. It's 130R, turn 15. So 130R, real brave. You got a bit of a runoff. It did get changed through the years to make it a touch safer, but it's still scary, and it's going to be scary in the wet tonight. So how will they progress to turn 15? Can they take it flat? Before you get into a real braking zone, massive braking zone, turn 16, the Casio Triangle chicane, where we've seen a lot of passes in the past here, where we've raced here at Sim Race South Africa. In fact, one of the best races we've ever had was, I think, season 1 of our ACC championships, where I was commentating with Jason, and we watched such a fantastic race. Also, changeable conditions in the wet. So hopefully, if we can match that or get close to it, we're in for a really good night. And then if you negotiate that difficult chicane, you get rewarded with a nice, easy entrance onto the start-finish straight, and that is a lap of Suzuka. Okay, there's the formalities gone. And yes, we've got a few comments in chat. Bashir Jadwat is pretty good at Suzuka. He's pretty good everywhere, so it is a real shame that he can't make it tonight. Hopefully he's watching the stream, he'll pick this up. But yeah, real shame that the stalwart that is Bashir Jadwat will not be racing due to load shedding. I think we've lost quite a few disappointed sim racers in South Africa. Time to start searching for a generator or inverter. I think they'll sell out tomorrow. We've got Roxanne Bartle in chat as well, supporting Ross Bartle, who has coincidentally topped the leaderboard. We saw he was leading HLQ chimes, and he is also currently in provisional pole as well in his Grumpy Monkey Audi Evo 2. So he's certainly liking that car more than he did with his BMW. So well done to Ross. Looks like the weather is getting wetter, if nothing else. 2:08.4. The world record time is 2:03. But actually, I remember from those HLQ times that they were in the 159s. So actually, Assetto Corsa competition is a little bit quicker than real life conditions, because a lot of the drivers in the 59s. But here in these conditions, which look like a handful, even for our provisional pole sitter here, Ross Bartle's moving that Audi all over the circuit and trying to keep control of it as he comes down and trying through Degner 1, and this will be Degner 2 under the bridge. Yeah, as you see, trying to cut as much of that corner off. But if you run wash out wide and touch that AstroTurf, as we see a perfect example of someone messing up in the Aston Martin behind Ross Bartle there before the bridge. And stepping out. Very tricky, Degnal 1 and 2. As you get down towards the hairpin, not so bad. Looks like Ross is trying to warm up his tyres. So we'll go down the field and see who else is running tonight. Marcus Stain in second position, currently in his BMW, 535 BMW, followed by Chris Heineke, his teammate. I get this right before, because I messed this up, so apologies to Chris Heineke. These two are in different shaded liveries, but they are the Slick Racing crew. So Chris Heineke in third position. So they're having a good team effort, locking out the podium so far. Philip Minnaar, who's had a fantastic season, his Grumpy Monkey AMG. He also was a driver that switched cars. We did it after round 1, and it was a bit of an inspired choice because he has been superb in that Mercedes for the rest of the season, taking round 2 victory at Snetterton. And he's the only man, from what I can gather, looking at the point standings, that could actually challenge Zaya Esser for the championship, the overall championship lead. So to do that, he pretty much needs to win tonight and the final round. He's had 1 win, and Zaya Esser's had 3 wins. They do get a drop round. Esser's still not on the server yet tonight, but has not so far had a drop round. He's had 3 first places and a second place, so he can afford to miss this race as long as he is there for the final round 6. But I think he would rather be here to try and bank some points at least. Philip Minnaar needs to put the hammer down though. Wonder whether he'll get any help and support from his sister team Grumpy Monkey driver in Ross Bartle, who is not challenging for the championship. So we'll just keep an eye out for those later. Might be a story to reflect on between Ross Bartle and Philip Minnaar. I'm sure they're talking to each other on radio comms. Victor Filter, 5th position in the Bentley. Nice to see a Bentley in the top 5. Bentley's also always excelled quite nicely in wet conditions. We saw that especially last season when we had a bit of a Bentley Cup, and as I say, wet conditions, it steps out completely on turn 1. Sorry for the commentator's curse there, Victor, but I thought the Bentley was good, and you've obviously got a good lap in because you're in 5th place. So yeah, let's just ignore that ever happened. But yeah, top 5 for Victor Filter. Went a bit wrong for him last round, round 4, and we'll see whether he can get a good, solid, consistent 90 minutes. That's the key here, 90 minutes. Very, very difficult to keep your concentration, especially going into darkness and dealing with weather for 90 minutes. So Victor Filter, let's see whether he can improve over a 90-minute session, because he was so strong in the first part of round 4. But yeah, we'll see how he goes here. Lawrence Sterner, an old hat in Sim Race South Africa, in his BMW, top 7. He'll be pretty happy with that. That's higher up than he qualified in HLQ, but obviously we've got a few drivers missing in the top 5. Hardest Boyce in 8th position in his Aston Martin. So we've got a good mixture of cars, haven't we? Got Audi, BMW, Mercedes AMG, Lexus has popped into top 5, Bentley 6, and then Aston Martin and a McLaren. Bertus Jan van Rensburg is the fastest McLaren so far, and the 17 McLaren. Here he is coming round. And very nice. I always love looking at the McLaren, so don't mind. We'll be keeping an eye on that nice black and red 720S throughout the race, number 17. And then Jonathan Bentz. It's always nice to see Jonathan because he's good at liveries, and he's always stretching a very nice livery. And here's his Aston Martin with his Ghostworks livery and his yellow design company. If you want a livery, that's the standard you can get, and he does it for people. So it's a good advert for himself there. Cracking livery, and he's doing well as well. He's just dropped out of the top 10 now. He's in 11th position, and we'll see whether he can work his way back up to top 10. 6 minutes to go. It all depends really on weather conditions, but it looks like it is possible, because Marcus Stain's retaken provisional pole from Ross Bartle at 208.3, so still time to be had. We're trying to keep an eye out if Zaya Esser logs onto the server, so I'll keep a very close eye out on that. Sas van der Westhuizen in 12th position is the first Ferrari, 92 Ferrari. Philip Minnaar started the season in the Ferrari, but switched out. So Sass has stayed with it, and he's had a very good season. I'm sure he'll be quite happy. It's much improved, I think, in ACC, and just in general. New equipment this season as well, and possibly helping Sass out. But see how Sass van der Westhuizen copes with a wet Suzuka as he bounces over a Degner 1 and through Degner 2. See, they're very tricky corners. I can catch someone out those 2 corners. We'll keep an eye out on that later in the race. Who else? We've got Sean Bingham in 15th position. Let's go down the field a little bit. Fridge Finlay. This was the car that I picked for our thumbnail this evening in his Lotus-style green livery, classic racing green, and he's in a British car as well. So possibly that might have swayed my biased decision and get him on the thumbnail. But there we are. See how Fridge Finlay in the 90 Aston Martin copes. He's got 4 minutes to go. He might want to try and get a little bit higher up the grid, starting mid-pack. Going to be difficult, very difficult. But Fridge Finlay's had a good season so far. Who else have we got? Let's work our way down. Hugo de Witt in our 23rd position in a Lexus. And Emily Bentz. That's obviously twinned with Jonathan Bentz. I'm not quite sure the relationship between Emily Bent's siblings, or I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out with Jonathan afterwards, but packing the same nice livery we saw earlier, 26th position, maybe getting some lessons from Jonathan, who's a very experienced sim racer. Warren Lindy is in the pits. Bashir Jadwat, I've got here, was briefly on the server, but he's not. So he is actually on my camera list as number 31, but he's not on there. So maybe he joined and then got kicked with load shedding. So we'll keep an eye out for a few people missing. Zairessa, he's on. He's on immediately in the top 5. So that was the name I was looking for. Zairessa. So he's just managed to get on the server, and he's managed to get on in time to post a lap. And he hasn't got much. He's faster as well. So we're going to watch this lap with 3 minutes to go. He's 4 tenths up on his Delta, which is already enough on his first flying lap to get him into the top 5. In a massive battle with Philip Minnaar for the championship, the overall championship. If he wins tonight, it'll be 4 wins and a second, which will be an unassailable lead going into the final round. He'll be able to just put his feet up or have a victory parade, if you like. So he's trying to get this locked up tonight in round 5. Obviously, multiple champion here at Sim Race South Africa. Anyone in South Africa will know him in the sim racing scene. But he's under pressure tonight. What a bit of pressure you'd rather do without. Not having any electric, frantically sat there pressing the power button on his computer, hoping it will just boot in time to get in on the server. But he has done it. And even if it finishes now, top 5 would not be bad at all. He's currently 2 tenths up as he goes through 130R up into the chicane. And, had a great chicane. Gained 2 tenths over his first lap. Not a great exit, though, so he obviously went in a bit hot. Lost those 2 tenths. Going to be a 2-tenth improvement. That might get him past Philip Minnaar. It's going to be very, very close here. Will it put him up into 4th position? He's going to improve. He doesn't. Look how close it is. 0.355 versus 0.357. Yo. That is as close as you like. So that pretty much sums up the last 3 or 4 rounds we've had here at Sim Race South Africa between Philip Minnaar and Zairessa, split by absolutely nothing. Now, he has enough time to go again, and I think he still has the pace, does Zairessa. Maybe it takes a few laps to just settle down, especially with these conditions in the wet. Make sure your tyres are up to temperature and in the window. And, yeah, let's see whether he can get it done now. He's a 10th up on his Delta. We've got at the moment, Marcus Stain is also running a 10th up. He's 1.5 tenths back from Chris Heineke. I'd missed that. He's in the pits. But Heineke's just slapped it on pole from nowhere. I do apologise to Chris Heineke. What a blinder he's had. I think he got very unfortunate and kicked out of the last round. I seem to remember he had a stunning start there as well. And then something happened to him. So, yeah, Chris Heineke is on provisional pole right now and in the pits, so he's happy with his lap time of 2:08.150. He's not going to go and get another lap because he won't get round past the checkered line to start a new flyer. Marcus Stain is on it, though. Ross Bartle is currently 2 tenths up. So let's see how Ross gets on as he's coming through Spoon Corner. And he'll be coming up to complete his lap. Final sector coming up to 130R now. Then trying to get through the chicane. 4 tenths up is currently Ross Bartle. This is a killer lap from Ross Bartle. At the moment, he's on provisional pole if he can just finish this. 3 tenths up. It's coming up to 130R now. Carrying as much speed as he can through here. Don't go too wide. You don't want an off track. Perfect here from Ross Bartle. Can he get this chicane, the final chicane right? Lost a tenth on the entry, but gained it all back on exit. 4 tenths up is Ross Bartle. This is enough for pole. Got 10 seconds to go in this qualifying session. Anyone on a lap will be able to complete it. But here, is he going to go into pole position? Ross Bartle comes across the line. He does indeed by 2 tenths of a second over Chris Heineke. What a lap there from Ross Bartle. Zyressa managed to get up into 3rd position. Big improvement there. Got past his championship rival in Philip Minnaar. So he'll be starting from 3rd position. I'm not sure he's still on a flyer. He is. I think he crossed the line before it went down to 0. So Zyressa can complete this lap. Minnaar's 1 tenth up as well as he comes up to Spoon Corner. So he'll get to complete his lap. So we've got Philip Minnaar and Zyressa are going to complete these. Are going to be counting laps. So if they can improve on their time. Minnaar's currently exactly tied on his delta though. Needs a bit more than that. Zyressa is also level on his delta. Could do with a touch more, but as far as he's concerned, he just needs to be ahead of this Mercedes Grumpy Monkey car. He won't be too concerned about Ross Bartle and Chris Heineke today. They've both gone a tenth up. Philip Minnaar's the first one that's going to come past those. So we're going to follow Philip Minnaar. He comes through 130R, up towards the chicane, into the braking zone, through turn 1, out to turn 2. This will be the final corner onto the entrance. Oh, he put everything into that chicane and it's not going to be improved. He dropped 2 tenths on it. We saw it just get a little bit squirrely there. And he's going to cross the line. In fact, he doesn't even bother. He slows up. So let's go to Zyressa. He's a tenth up. He needs to be 2 tenths, though. He could get maybe Chris Heineke, start on the front row of the grid. And this might be enough to start on the front row of the grid. He's so close to Chris Heineke. Any sort of improvement will get him to 2nd position. But it looks like Ross Bartle is out of reach with only 130R. Look how wide he goes on 130R. Pushing, trying to carry as much speed as he can. This is it, the chicane. Can he have an awesome chicane through here? No, he can't. He's a tenth down. Doesn't look like S is going to make it. It looks like the top 3 is as they are. Ross Bartle will be starting from pole position from Chris Heineke, who had an awesome qualifying. I think Zyressa will be pleased with 3rd place. Marcus Stain will start from 4th. Philip Minnaar, disappointed to be in 5th place. He needs to finish ahead of Zyressa. In fact, he needs a win. Sean Shooter will be in 6th position. Lawrence Sterner will be 7th. Hannes van Veek 8th. Victor Filter 9th. And Paul Venter managed to sneak in to the top 10. So that was a dramatic qualifying. It looks like the race is going to start in the wet. We've got 2 minutes. So as I sort myself out, we're going to take a very quick break. And then we'll be back for round 5 Suzuka. Don't go anywhere, guys. Okay, we're back, guys. Round 5, Sim Race South Africa, Suzuka. This is it. We've got 40 seconds to go before the parade lap starts. We had a very dramatic finish to qualifying with a few late entrants coming in and then everyone switching places to try and take that pole. It was eventually taken by Ross Bartle, who's been superb throughout HLQ as well, and he took it by 0.2 of a second. So let's see whether Ross Bartle can finally get his win in the ACC Championship. Now he switched cars, much happier in that Audi. So he's going to have the best opportunity so far with a clean track ahead of him. Chris Heineke will be delighted to be sharing the front row of the grid with him, followed by the Masterclass, first of the Masterclass, 771 McLaren 720s. The other one was Bashir Jadwat. We did see you on the camera sheet. I got all excited, Bashir. I thought possibly you may have just cheated ESCOM, and I think you also thought as well. But eventually they threw the ESCOM hammer on you when you got kicked off. So it's a shame that you missed out on this race. We hope you'll be back for round 6. And in the meantime, you can keep us company in chat and also support your teammate in Zyressa. Can he work his way up from the second row of the grid? If anyone can, Zyressa can in the 771 Masterclass 720S. And he's got Philip Minar also desperately trying to get a win here to just keep his championship hope still alive. He's had an awesome season. Obviously, he's taken his drop round in the first round, which puts him on the back foot already. But he's been superb since he switched into the Mercedes AMG. But he'll be starting with a lot to do from 5th position in the 705 Merc. And Mercedes is a car that's on the rise, eh? They've had a superb Bathurst 12 hour at the weekend. I don't know whether anyone of you caught it. Jules Gounon taking a second win in a row there at Bathurst. And a top 1-2-3 Merc finish at the 12 hour. Unbelievable. So they're riding high. So can Philip Minar continue to fly the Mercedes flag? It's not doing it in Formula 1, so he might as well try in GT3. So that's in the top 5. And then we'll be looking at battles throughout the grid as well. We've got 30 runners tonight. So if anyone wants a shout out for anyone or wants a bit of screen time for one of their favourite drivers, just let us know in chat, and we'll go back down the field to try and catch all the action here at a very wet Suzuka. Now, to remind you, we're starting here at 5 p.m. In fact, it's 5:15 now, this parade lap. And we'll be finishing about 9:30 in the evening. So this will be a race that goes into darkness. Will the rain take us all the way there? Or will we have a drying track and some changeable conditions? And maybe some strategy calls throughout the 90 minutes as well. That's been a bit of a theme throughout this season, which has kept me and Nick on our toes, trying to work out what strategy call is best. Sometimes we're shouting for the undercut and we get proved wrong and the overcut is the winner, but at other times it's complete opposite. So it shows that if you're prepared to take a few risks, though, you can certainly gain places in ACC with a different strategy call. So we're about to complete. It's a very long parade lap here at Suzuka, obviously being over 2 minutes for a fast flyer anyway. So their tyres are going to be real clap cold, and going into that super long straight and then the massive braking zone of turn 1 here and turn 2, because you're sort of braking through 1 to get the late apex of 2. I'm suspecting possibly a little contact at some point down the field, so we'll stick in helicam for now to make sure we try and get as much action as possible. Ross Bartle and Heineke sort of streaking away before they bunch up, coming up to 130R now. And then the rest of the field, you should start to catch up to him. Everyone going through their preparations. Obviously, the weather forecast was announced over a week ago, I think, so people will be prepared for a wet race for sure. It certainly won't be taking them by surprise. I think this is the sort of weather we were expecting as the field does start to bunch up as we come to the chicane. So they start working their way through the chicane, and then they will line up nice and neatly as we come towards the finish line, and we will go green for the start of round 5 here at Sim Race South Africa and the simGT season at Assetto Corsa Competizione. Perfectly balanced on the start of this race. And Chris Heineke's trying to get as level as he possibly can with Ross Bartle. He has got the favourable inside line. I think Zayaressa won't mind starting from third position, being on that inside line. Chris Heineke to the left of him. And we will go green now as we come. There's the green light. Here we go. This is the start. Round 5 Suzuka, Sim Race South Africa. And here's Ross Bartle gets a flyer. And he's up on the inside. And Chris Heineke will take that second position. We're going to shoot back throughout the field to see whether there's any nastiness happening in turn 1, 2. And it looks like everyone is very well behaved. Check a look at that, guys, in the rain as well, as everyone negotiates that difficult first corner. It's a double corner, really, but it's really one. And everyone gets through safely through the S's. Let's go back up to the front end of the grid. I was expecting a bit of carnage there, but not at all. This is Division 1 racing. I wouldn't expect anything less. These guys know what they're doing, but Ross Bartle has got the start that he wanted. He started from pole, and he's made it his own already. Already a bit of a gap starting to form from the second place guy behind, as we watch the live timing sort themselves out. Welcome to Assetto Corsa Competizione and everyone bouncing around, but I do assure you that Ross Bartle is first. There we go, and the first sector time comes up. 0.8 is his lead over Chris Heineke. What a start he has there. We've seen Zayaressa all season long struggle, or not struggle, just be generally a little bit slower at the start of the race on heavy fuel, and then work his way in, and then his final pace has just always been epic. As the fuel burns off at the end of a stint, Zayaressa is very, very strong. Philip Minard has got up into 4th position. So there we go, the rivals. He's got past Marcus Steyn. Marcus Steyn's had an issue. Where is he? There we go. Marcus Steyn's dropped right back. Sas van der Westhuizen behind him. So Marcus Steyn's down in like 11th position right now. The timings will update when they go past the sector. Marcus Steyn, we missed, has had an issue. Let's change our cameras back to the TV cams. There we go. There is Marcus Steyn back down in 11th position from Sas van der Westhuizen. It's promoted Philip Minard into 4th. And he's got his championship rival right in front of him in Zayaressa in the 771 720S. So already, we've seen it for the last 3 races. It's Philip Minard versus Zayaressa, the 2 champion title contenders. And Philip Minard knows that he's got to get ahead. Zayaressa posts the fastest lap of the fastest first lap of the race. And that's going to change a lot, though, because it means nothing right now. Still desperately trying to keep that Merc pointing in a straight line, squirming all over the place. Fiddling with traction control settings, possibly. Got a few Philip Minard fans in chat. Jackie, yeah, vouching for Minard. He's had a superb season, and he's certainly taken the fight to Zayaressa for the last 3 or 4 races. It's been very, very close between the two. S has come out on top twice, and Minard's come out on top at Snetterton. So can he turn it around tonight? Ross Bartle, in the meantime, though, 1.4 seconds. He's out of his DRS range if it existed in GT3 racing, but it doesn't. But within a lap, he's stretched a 1.4 second lead over Chris Heineke. Inspired decision to ditch his BMW, which he just wasn't enjoying. Spoken to him a few times, we've heard him in chat a few times on the WhatsApp group. He's just didn't like driving that BMW, I don't think. And the last 2 rounds, he's been in the Audi, and it's just immediately we've got the Ross Bartle back that we saw previously. So I'm pretty sure you're going to have to claw that thing off his death grip to get him out of that Audi for next season. I'm pretty sure that is the car he will be in for the 2022.2 season. And Chris Heineke he's had a great finish as well for this season in his BMW in 2nd position. Obviously, maybe done a lot of practice in the wet, possibly. Anyone that did is going to really benefit tonight with lap times in the sort of 208s. Seeing, when they come through, should have a lap time roughly of a 208. We'll see when they cross the line right now. Obviously, they practiced in HLQ in perfect conditions, so it was, and we didn't see a huge amount of lap posts on the HLQ servers because it would have been completely pointless, wouldn't it? So you want to just post your lap time. Once you're happy, move on and get some wet weather practice in, because everyone was expecting these wet weather conditions. Let's have a look back at Zayaressa and Philip Minard. Going to be keeping a close eye on these two throughout the evening. And yeah, between Philipp Minnaar and Zaire Esser, it's going to be really, really close between these two. Only second between them, and Esser just needs to finish in front, basically, and it's job done. We've got a few questions in chat. Rules of changing cars. Yeah, Bashir's actually answered it already. You can change your car, but you lose all your points. So in the case of Ross Bartel, he changed with only 3 races to go. Halfway through the season, just wasn't enjoying his BMW, and that's it. He starts with 0 points, so he's way out of the championship. But he was anyway, because he just didn't have any results in that BMW. So he's using this as practice for the second part of the season. Obviously, that Evo 2 has only been released very recently as part of the new DLC pack of Assetto Corsa Competizione. So I think he's taking a bit of a head start leap into it. To get familiar for the first season where it'll be eligible for everybody to pick. We'll probably see a big mix up in the grids now with the new DLC arriving. So for next season, I'll expect a lot of changes throughout the field. But in the meantime, Ross Bartel, I think, is the only driver tonight that's taken the new car. And yeah, so he'll have a bit of an advantage going into the next season, but it's inconsequential for this season where he's not going for a championship lead. So we did comment earlier whether that would play a role later on tonight if we had a situation with Philipp Minnaar possibly behind Ross Bartel for the win, whether Bartel will sacrifice that win for those vital championship points. But at the moment, it's not going to make any difference at all, because Minnaar needs to be there for Ross Bartel to hand it over. So much racing to go, 1 hour 23 minutes to go, so much to go. Hannes van Veek is looking to put a move here on this Lexus of Sean Shooter, who was very defensive down that pit straight, but took his normal line in the end for turn 1-2. So pretty close between these two. Let's have a little look at what that looks like from the onboard cam from Hannes van Veek. There we go, the Lexus just in front of him, super close. Come through these S's, quite tricky in that you get familiar with your line through here in the dry, but if you start washing out in the wet, you get a little bit offline in the first section of the S's, and by the time you get to the end of that section, you'll be so far off, and you can lose so much time. So come up to Degner 1, want to clip as much of this as you can. Use all of the circuit here, but you see, oh, there we go, the Lexus has got squirmish, and this is an opportunity here. Come up towards the hairpin. Lexus managed to just hold it. I think Hannes van Veek just lifted and wasn't sure what had happened, didn't want to make contact, didn't capitalise on the situation, and Lexus managed to hold place. Covering that inside line, but probably should have lost the corner. Here's another opportunity there, coming down towards Spoon. I think it's pretty much inevitable at this point, and this part's going to happen at some point, or they're going to have contact, because this Lexus has been driving defensive for basically the whole lap. Let's go back out on TV cam and see how different lines they're taking as Hannes van Veek. Such an improved driver this season, been very impressed with him in ACC. Always seems to be there or thereabouts in the top end, and he's really hounding the back of Sean in that Lexus. So they come up to 130R. No doubt that it could be a little bit trickier in these wet, but last time I mentioned in the first season, I think we had Leslie Oliphant in the Lexus, just flipping awesome in the rain, just blasted through the field. It was in the Lexus as well. A Japanese car on a Japanese circuit, seemed inspired. So we know that Lexus can dance in the wet, especially on this circuit. But at the moment, he's trying desperately to keep an Aston Martin behind him, and a little bit more comfortable now on this lap. So we'll check back on those two. Let's go if Philipp Minnaar is within under a second, half a second between him and Esser, and they've bunched up behind Heineke as well. So these second, third and fourth positions are very tight. Here we have that on board as we look at Zaire Esser in front, trying to get past Chris Heineke, who's really struggling for some reason, the 96 BMW. We saw it just step out there. I think that might be enough for Esser to go up the inside. It is. We got an onboard view from Minnaar of this pass. Degner 1, they've both gone wide. Now Minnaar can look up the inside of Degner 2. Surely not. It's a dangerous place to make a pass. Thinks better of it. drops back behind Esser. Going to come up towards the hairpin now. You're not going to go around the outside here. So best to stay behind. Look how close it is between these two cars. So different in their style of driving. But all season we've seen how quickly they've been together. And this is very close between all three of these drivers. Three different manufacturers, BMW, McLaren, Mercedes-AMG. Looks up the inside, that's contact there. There's definitely some contact there. Let's see what happened. Let's go back 10 seconds. We want to see it from a different camera view. Looked up the inside, does Philippe Minard. He hit Esser and he lost it. No harm done because Esser retakes the position. But he just tapped the rear end of Zaire Esser. And it's as they were, but Chris Heineke will be relieved as he scampers off in the distance with a 2 second. So that cost him 2 seconds, that contact. So hip and shoulder out from Philippe Minard and try to wedge his massive Merc through a gap that wasn't quite there. But they both carry on, which we're glad to see because we want to see a bit more of this battle as the night progresses. And we've only done 10 minutes, so we've got 1 hour 19 to go. And already the battle of the season continues at Suzuka. So another lap starts, and let's see. It looks like at the moment, we've seen this in the last sort of 3 rounds, as Philippe Minard on high fuel has had a lot better pace, or not a lot better, but generally quicker than Esser at the start of the race. And then the race seems to just come to that 720S. Seems to just come to the McLaren as the fuel burns off. He seems more comfortable on tyre wear as well, and more able to manage the tyres. So if he can just soak up this early pressure from the Mercedes, I just feel that Esser will come good as this race progresses. Obviously weather will play a massive factor in that, and whether this rain actually sort of lightens up a bit. Now, I haven't got the forecast on my ACC, unfortunately. It actually just broke by itself. So it's going to be the first time we'll be able to tell whether the rain is going to disappear, unless someone tells us in chat and has inside knowledge from one of these drivers from their forecast. It will be when it lightens up on our stream. So let us know if you've got some inside knowledge. Otherwise, we'll all get excited together when we start to see the rain just dry up a little bit. But at the moment, it seems very consistent. And pretty much the same as it's been throughout qualifying and the start of this race. Drivable conditions for sure, but certainly nowhere near from any sort of dry line or change in strategy call. So the gap's changed now, hasn't it? Minard's dropped a lot further back, so we're down to over a second, I believe. No, just under a second, 9/10 back is Minard from Esser, and he has to try and regroup. I think Chris Heineke will be mightily relieved, but his 2 seconds is dropped 7/10 on this lap already. So yeah, already 7/10 has been dropped on this lap. So I don't think it'll be long until these two are back. They're pushing each other along, and Chris Heineke is going to be the one that he's going to be under pressure to try and keep that second place. Had a great start to this race. Can he keep it? Ross Bartel's 6.5 second lead in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. That Audi, I think there might be a few people testing that Audi in the off season. I think we might see a few more of those in the next season, which runs from July into December. Just to remind you guys, you can still join now if you want to try and get some practice at SimRace South Africa, but we'll soon be announcing the next season. There'll be quite a lot of changes on the calendar, so keep an eye out for that. But if you want to start racing, then please do. And get yourself over to the website, simracesa.co.za, and you'll get a lot more information. Join the Discord. Ask. There's a great community. Social gentleman racing league, basically. Everyone's friends here. So if you're just new into sim racing, have a go. It doesn't have to be ACC. It can be another sim. We've got a lot of different series, and we'll have some changes next season, as I've alluded to, which will get announced shortly. So in the meantime, we've got Esser has managed to get that gap that we were looking at Chris Heineke from 2 seconds down to only 7/10. So it's going to be a mighty amount of pressure piled onto that BMW. That he's been able to just concentrate on his lines, and it's not been quick enough, unfortunately, for Chris Heineke, because Zaire Esser seems to have the measure of him. And it won't be long until he'll be under pressure from this McLaren. I think probably in the next lap. So let's just ride on board a little bit with the Masterclass 771 McLaren and Zara Esser. The one car that avoided load shedding, and his teammate is watching him on, that is currently in darkness, I take it, Bashir. So hopefully you've got enough battery on your phone or laptop or whatever you're watching this on to try and see the end of this race. But at least one Masterclass car has the opportunity to do well here, and it's Zaya Esser with his windscreen wipers ferociously moving left to right as he tracks down this BMW. Already feels the need to just go a little bit defensive there before taking his braking zone, desired braking zone. Look at the BMW just squirming for traction in turn 2 as they go up to start the S's. Definitely Esser seems more planted and gained ground there for sure, and he's gone a bit washed wide for the BMW there as well. This is a massive amount of time gained here for Zaya Esser, and they're going to come up to Degner 1 and 2. They've got to go through Dunlop curve first. Here's a Dunlop curve up to Degner 1, 2. You're not going to pass here, but you can gain time unless there's a mistake from the BMW in front. Not sure where he'll be looking. Maybe the inside of Spoon. No, it's a good Degner 1 for Esser. Very good. Second corner as they go under the bridge to the hairpin. And the gap is next to nothing now between these two cars. So Chris Heineke had a couple of laps reprieve during that incident with Esser and Minnaar. And it's not been long for Esser to catch that BMW back up. And there we will soon be having a passing opportunity here, I believe. It's only so much pressure you can take, especially in these conditions. Already hard enough. You don't want to be looking in your mirrors. They come up to the Spoon corner. Oh, he's gone wide. He's gone very wide, the BMW, but then Esser just had to get off the throttle there as well. So Spoon's being tricky in these conditions. Yeah, I agree with Bashir. Looks like Chris has cooling tyres. Can't see a dry... Yeah, there's no dry line. Yeah, he looks like he's cooling his tyres down the straight. Yeah, he's sort of switched out to the right, but there's definitely no dry line, is there? So he's got overheating tyres, but I don't think it appears to be any wetter anywhere else on the circuit. But the BMW just a little bit squirmy. We saw it through the S's and through Spoon as well, as he's sort of washed out wide over the curbs. We'll just see now whether, yeah, there we go. Chris is moving very distinctively up the inside. S is happy to keep his racing line. Doesn't seem to be a drying line though, so I'm not quite sure whether Chris is getting any benefit from that whatsoever. And there's this section where he lost a lot of time. We're just staying on board with Esser because it's just such a great camera view, and we get to see that BMW in front. A bit wide through there, and this is what we saw in the last lap as well. And Esser managing to close up substantially through this S's section. So they come up to Dunlop curve again. This is about as close as they've been between these two. Just seems like the BMW struggling in that part of the circuit. Super close here. Super close between these two. Can Esser make a move from Degner 1? The side-by-sides they go into here. Not really enough space for two cars here. He's going to have to drop back, does Esser. But Heineke goes wide through Degner 2 and then under the bridge. I mean, that's as close as you want to be through those corners. Not a usual passing opportunity. Difficult enough, one car. Looks like Esser thought twice about it. I hope that Minnaar is not really putting too much pressure. Taking a different line through the hairpin is Esser. Minnaar has caught up through this battling though, so Esser wants to get a move on. Heineke is keeping him, he's slowing him up. Yeah, Heineke's definitely slowing him up. Possibly not got the right pressures, Bashir thinks. Possibly that's why he's overheating. Maybe the temperatures have just taken him by surprise as well, because he really struggled in that BMW. Had good pace at the start, but the tyres definitely seem to be off. And now it's holding Esser back. Now he's not going slow enough that it's an easy pass though, is it? And the section where Esser is a lot quicker through the S's and Degner 1 and 2 is not a place where you're going to put a pass here. So he's got to get a bit more he's got to take some inspiration somewhere and trying to get a pass, because through this back section on 130R, Heineke seems comfortable. And in the meantime, Minnaar's managed to close that gap to well under a second as well, 8/10 back in fourth position. It's going to be a three car fight for second spot. And Ross Bartle doesn't mind this whatsoever because his lead is now stretched to 9.2 seconds. Yeah, so that final sector, Chris feels a lot more comfortable. Heineke is way more comfortable through there. And then as we go back on board with Esser through here, we'll see how much he gains through these S's. It's a lot. By the time they get to Dunlop, he's right tight behind again. So this BMW's just struggling through this sector 1. Yeah, and by the time they get up to Degner 1 and 2, Esser's right back there again. But it's no good because you've basically got to be ahead by this corner, Degner 1, to actually make the corner without contact. You've got assured contact through here any other way. So he's just going to have to sit back and wait for his chance. But he'll be ever mindful of the fact that Minnaar is less than a second behind him as well. So any mistake that Chris Heineke makes, Esser's going to be ready to pounce. So we're going to go back from a request from chat. Here we go. Positions 13 and 14 is Bertus Jans van Rensburg against Jonathan Bentz. And it's within half a second between these two. And it was half a second the last time they went through the gates, but it looks further than that on our screens right now, doesn't it? As it starts to get dark here at the Suzuka circuit. Definitely a shade darker all of a sudden. Lights much more pronounced on these cars. As Jonathan Bentz, it does seem to be a little bit further back. Stefan Herp's behind is only half a second in. It's a bit of a McLaren sandwich is Jonathan Bentz. Got one in front and one behind. So Stefan Herp's super close throughout the field though. We're seeing a lot of close driving. Let's go back up to Marcus Stain, who was in half a second from Paul Venter. Venter just started in 10th position. Stain started further up and dropped back. Is now half a second back, who himself is only half a second behind Victor Filter, who is only 3/10 behind Lawrence Stern in the BMW. So all four cars on the same part of the circuit, all fighting for position. These four guys, super tight throughout the field. So we're seeing some good racing here at Suzuka already, as we've come to expect every time we've come here. And yeah, these four split by next to nothing. Any mistake and you're going to gain a few places or lose a few places, as it might be. Lawrence Sterner trying to hold back the Bentley and two BMWs behind. And getting super close at the start. We don't want to miss this. Just seeing 0.2 of a second between Esser and Heineke again. And Minnaar just a second further back. So the tightest, the shortest gap on circuit is these two. And it's been like that for a while. Minnaar's just gained a huge chunk of time back there in the braking zone. It obviously brakes a little bit later. It's now concertinaed back out again. But only 0.2 between Esser and Heineke, as we've got an hour and 7 minutes left of this race. And it gets another shade darker, doesn't it, here at Suzuka? We're not going to be able to see much of these liveries shortly as we head into full darkness here. And the lights will play a big factor. Will that change anything, or will they carry on? Very, very close between these two, but it's been like that for the last sort of 10 minutes. And Chris Heineke just soaking up that pressure. But it helps that his car is quick where it matters, through here, 130R and into the chicane, and then the big drag. It's much quicker in a straight line, that BMW. Much, much quicker in a straight line. S is getting his lap time differently through that sector 1. But it's just how brave he can be, or an opportunity to pass. It's going to be difficult there. As we see the lights on these cars. I like the glowing roof line of that Masterclass. It's like got lights, LED strip up either side of the window. And looks very much like an advanced spaceship, doesn't it? A Masterclass Merc. As it can, this is where it's quick. So we see how much time it loses in that final sector to the BMW, and gains it all back through here. And there's that is a a demonstration of why, as Chris Heineke tries to correct that BMW frantically, as it's still squirming, definitely struggling for tyres here. We want him to make maybe a quick change on pressures as he comes into his pit window, but it's way too early for that. In the meantime, he just tries to soak up as much pressure he can. Every lap that goes by, Chris Heineke will be feeling more and more confident that Zayaressa will not pass him, knowing that at least he's got that final sector to rely on. If he has a bad final sector, though, that could be curtains. So he just needs to concentrate on those bits where he's quickest at. Here we go. Looks up the inside of the hairpin, different lines. Super tight here. Let's go quickly on board with Zayaressa as they come up to Spoon Corner, section of the track where he hasn't been quick, but he hasn't been as close as he has been here. This is where he really needs a good spoon, does Chris Heineke, and he gets a bit of a squirm. Has to come off throttle, does Essa. Different lines, much tighter through there. Has been throughout the evening. This is super close. This is as close as they've been as they come up to 130R. Yeah, BMW is so quick in a straight line, but they're so close here, and I think it's gone wide. He's gone very wide. Chris Heineke made a mess of 130R, just clipped the grass. We're going to go back and catch that as he's under pressure from Minnaar. Here we go. This is the pass. There you go. Chris Heineke goes very wide, makes a mess of 130R. Help that Essa was there to capitalise, had the pass done before he gets to the chicane. Now, can he keep it? He's going to have to go defensive. He's going to have to cover that inside line. So important to cover that inside line because he's going to have a BMW pushing him and a Merc pushing him. Heineke's looking to go around the outside. He's braked too late. Philippe Minnaar's done exactly the same. Essa, this is Phil. He's managed to keep the hot lead, and now this is where he needs to stretch it. He's been so good through these S's so far this evening in the first 30 minutes of this race. Heineke went off. Philippe Minnaar followed him in a sympathy spin, but it wasn't a spin. It was just a brake as late as you can, and they just pushed it too far. And that is the pass cemented for Zayaressa up into second position, and now it's whether he can start hunting down Ross Barton on that Audi. We've not really seen much of Ross this evening, but it's because he's got an 11.7 second lead, but has a good clean fight for many a lap between Essa and Heineke. And now Heineke's going to have a Mercedes, which is going to be a different car to try and hold back because the Merc's going to have the legs down the straight that Essa didn't. So Essa, you can see the lead he's gained already, 1.1 seconds. It's probably more than that, 1.5 seconds in that first sector. It's exactly what he needed to do because he'll lose some of that in the final sector where the BMW has been so strong. But now Philippe Minnaar is going to be a different beast to try and hold back because that Merc is also quick in a straight line. So might find it easier to pass than Essa did. Essa took his time, very, very patient. Had a few looks, that one look on Degnal 1, a few laps back, but thought better of it and quite rightly dropped back into position as it goes so dark here at Suzuka. Going to struggle to see these cars shortly as Philippe Minnaar, I think, is going to find it much easier to overtake tonight compared to Essa because they get their lap time differently. We've seen that in the last 3 rounds of Sim Race South Africa, the simGT series. And he'll be able to hang on to the coattails of that BMW down this straight a little bit easier than that McLaren did. Yeah, we see a 1.9 second lead from Essa on that first clean lap that he had, but we see the difference here of Philippe Minnaar managing to just hold on to the back of that BMW much easier than the 720S ever could. But will he be able to keep it here through the S's? Let's go on board quickly with Minnaar. Just familiarise ourselves with this track now. It starts to get dark and you're using your headlights more and more. Visibility already not great with the little bit of spray that you're having to deal with from the car in front. They come through the S's. You see the difference here as we followed Essa for a long time through there. Looks so planted through that sector 1, and Minnaar's fighting the steering wheel much, much more. And a little bit like the BMW squirming in front of him. These two just battling through that twisty section and a lot stronger in this final sector. They come through the hairpin, but from Spoon onwards is where these two cars get their lap time, it appears. But Minar's pretty close. Can he push Heineke into another mistake? 130R, he was very, very wide. A couple of laps back to allow Essa through. They're coming up to Spoon now. Thank you, Warren Smith. Rain updated, shows decrease in the next 10 minutes. That's vital information. Thanks very much for letting us know on that. So it looks like rain will lighten up. The drivers will be relieved as we head into darkness, if that is indeed the case. I wouldn't mind actually seeing a dry end to this race. Come up to the chicane now, keeping an eye on Minar, putting a lot of pressure on Chris Heineke. Sorry, through 130R. And much cleaner line from Heineke, but Minar's going to have a look up the inside of the chicane. He's having a very, very good look. It's not enough. Drops back, but this is close. This is very, very close as we ride on board with these two. Okay, sorry, just took a little bit of a breather there as we come through to complete that lap, and it is still Philip Minar behind the BMW. Hannes van Veek is having a great race, though. He's up into 5th position. Did manage to get ahead of Sean Schutt in the Lexus after all. We missed that pass, unfortunately, between these two, but we saw how close it was earlier in the race. And he's into the top 5. Warren's going to be our weatherman for tonight. He's going to keep us updated. He's looking at the car 39. So who is car 39? Let's scroll through. René Hatting in the Aston Martin is car 39. Yeah, thanks, Bash. That's why I was trying to get rid of some of these bots. I can't really multitask. This is where I need Nick in stream. But yeah, it's a great stream when we get overwhelmed by bots. Someone's got to sort that out, YouTube, please. So we're getting a live weather forecast from car 39, so we do appreciate that from Warren, and we'll keep an eye out on that, because it does look, I mean, it's so dark. It's really dark. I'm struggling to see. But you see how dark Suzuka is. No lighting on the back part of this circuit whatsoever. And it looks like the rain stopped already, doesn't it? I can't see anything in the lights. So do we think the rain stopped? I think it might have done. So we'll have to just, maybe let's just ride on board with Ross Bartle, our leader, and see whether we're starting to see a dry line. No, he's got his windscreen wipers going, so it's still raining lightly. So that's the way we're going to be able to check now. The only way we can see the rain is by checking onboard streams of these drivers. But Ross Bartle, what a race he's had. Now, interesting that Essa got into 2nd position and the gap was nearly 12 seconds, and it's down to 10.5 seconds from the leader. So Essa's on. He's on to give Ross Bartle a run for his money here. Bartle had a great lead. And a great start to this race, probably feeling comfortable, might be managing slightly, but let's look at the best laps of the race. Ross Bartle's fastest lap of the race, 2:08.69. Essa's 2:08.7, so very slightly slower. So Bartle is currently the quickest car. He has got the fastest lap of the race, has Ross Bartle, which will explain his lead, his gap at the front, but it's dropping now, look, 10.0. So his last lap of the race, Ross Bartle, was a 2:09.4 compared to Zaire S's 2:08.9. So currently S is taking half-second chunks out of Ross Bartle every single lap, and there's 56 minutes to go and a pit stop window. So this race is not over by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to keep a very close eye between our leaders in Ross Bartle and Zaire Essa on whether Essa can claw back that 10 seconds, then what can he do about it? We've said it already that as fuel burns off that McLaren, he just feels, or he just appears to look more and more comfortable in that car as the race goes on. Chris Heineke is still in 3rd position. He's managing to hold off Philip Minar nicely. He's basically had 20 minutes of pressure as Chris Heineke, and he's had some very good driving. He's one mistake of just going wide in 130R once, and Essa was there to capitalise on it and that opportunity. So he'll be a little bit upset about that, but superb driving from the slick racing driver in Chris Heineke in the 96 BMW to just hold off Essa for so long, and now a completely different beast in the Mercedes AMG as well, Philipp Minnaar, who will be so desperate to get past to try and catch Essa because he sees his championship contention just falling away from him with every minute that ticks by. As Minnaar has to battle Heineke first before he can try and get into... I mean, he's got a friend in Ross Bartel, hasn't he? So Ross Bartel can do the ultimate and hold Essa up if that ever happens to allow Minnaar to catch up. But it feels like Minnaar might have to just do something different with strategy tonight, or whether that Mercedes starts coming to him if this track does indeed dry out later in the race. We already think that the BMW might be struggling with tyres. The only one that's visibly moving offline to try and cool them or do anything to try and help them. We'll have a look at... We'll just stick with Chris Heineke as they complete this lap to see whether he does, again, move over to the right-hand side. Now, he's halfway through because he's only on Degner 2, isn't it? It's very hard to actually see where you are as they go through Degner 2. Because it is so dark. And give an idea of the visibility that you've got. Look at that. We're riding on board now with Chris Heineke with his lights on in his BMW. And the glare that you get from your rear view mirror of a Mercedes AMG. It's like having a taxi right up behind you on the N2, isn't it? Very off-putting, but there's nothing you can do about it. You're trying to drive away from it as fast as you can. And yeah, nothing you can do about it. Just got to try and ignore it. I wonder if you can... We know a sim's got realistic when you can flick your rear view mirror to get rid of the glare. But as far as I'm aware, that hasn't happened yet. And look how close that is. The Mercedes now having a really good look here. Let's go back on board the TV cam, side by side. Stuck up the inside, did the Merc. He's going to go wide, though, as he pushed it too far at 130R. He hasn't. Manages to hold on to it, and that is going to be a pass from Philipp Minnaar. Let's go back 10 seconds, have another look. Oh, it was already done at that point. So this is where they rejoin. And Philipp Minnaar did finally get the pass. Didn't feel like Chris Heineke made any actual major error there. But just manages to get the run and really push track limits, did Philipp Minnaar. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a warning there. Maybe we had a few drive-throughs in the last round at Imola. It was definitely an issue with a few people that abusing track limits. Obviously, you can do it a couple of times, but those warnings start to clock up. Might be a strategic track limit there from Philipp Minnaar, but either which way, it was good driving and a very clean pass in the end through 130R. So that's twice Chris Heineke's lost out on that corner. One for pushing it too much, and maybe one for being a little bit too cautious. So a 720S for pushing it too much went past, and a McLaren went past for being just a touch too cautious. But certainly that BMW seems just a little bit of a handful, because the moment the guy gets ahead, they're just gone, and Heineke has no response to the pace. He can soak up the pressure, and very good driving keeps him in the position, but he's struggling in that BMW to keep traction on any of the twisty parts. So, Zaire Essa, the gap down to 8.4 seconds. I feel there's going to be another twist. I feel there's going to be another twist in this story as we get to the end of this race. And we're starting to look towards the pit stop window. 51 minutes. We're going to be 6 minutes to the halfway point of this race. And the second session will be complete darkness throughout. So, will people start making changes as we go into the second session? And a strategy call. We got a new weather forecast from Warren Smith. Rain updated 3 minutes till decreased, and then decreased again in 10 minutes. So it's a very gradual lighting. It's getting lighter, as we go on in this race, basically, but it's not fully stopping. So I wonder whether that's enough to make a strategy change. Probably not, but maybe drivers will want to push it as far as they can, depending on fuel, to make that final strategy call. So, whilst we wait for that to happen and cars go through, let's go back down through the grid and get a few other drivers, shall we? Paul Venter is only 6 tenths behind Victor Filter. in his Bentley. So we've got BMW, we've seen a bit of a powerhouse down the straight, but the Bentley is no slouch either, as Paul Venter gets within sort of a few tenths of the Bentley in front. This is a battle that's been going on for a few laps as well. Looks to be one of the closest. Who else have we got as we just sneak down through the field to make sure everyone gets some stream time? Hugo de Witt is putting a lot of pressure on here. And in fact, we've got 3 cars. I think they're trying to pass a back marker there, aren't they? Oh no, we've got damage. We've got massive damage on the front of that Lexus. I was wondering what was happening there. Look at the front of that Lexus, bonnet up. Hugo de Witt's had some massive damage and he's falling back down through the field now. So he's not in 24th position whatsoever, because I think we've had a few cars pass him, and I suspect he's coming into the pits. He is. There we go. Hugo de Witt into the pits. Had some big contact there, and he'll be looking to repair that Lexus. So he's our first pitter, but it's not from choice, I don't believe, from Hugo de Witt, as he goes into the pit lane, which is still very, very dark, to repair what is left of his Lexus. I think he may have affected the resale value of that Lexus tomorrow, but they can do a remarkable job in a few seconds to set a course of competition. And it's surprising how clean they come out of the pits. If only Real World was like that, hey, we'd all be race drivers. So back to the battle between Paul Venter and Victor Filter of 0.7 seconds between these two. Different manufacturers, BMW versus Bentley, and it looks like he's going to have a look here, Paul Venter, as they come up to 130R. Dangerous place. Not enough, drops back behind the Bentley. I just seen the front bonnet of that BMW. He's got someone saying shush. He has indeed, hasn't he? Paul Venter on the front of his BMW. Interesting livery choice there from the Logistical Nightmares BMW as he tries to track down that Bentley. But we've seen how strong that BMW is in a straight line. Looks like Bashir Jadrat's unfortunately leaving us because his laptop has also ran out of juice. So thanks for joining us in stream, Bash. We look forward to seeing you in round 6. As a driver as opposed to a spectator, hopefully. Yeah, ESCOM sucks, eh? We all know it. So we'll carry on to enjoy this battle here between Paul Venter and Victor Filter as 2 different manufacturers scrap it out for that 9th position. As we start looking out for who's going to come into the pit. Jonathan Bentz is coming into the pits in the 310 Aston Martin from 19th position. So he's the first guy to come in for a scheduled pit stop, is Jonathan Bentz. So I wonder what choice he will have. We're going to ride on board with Paul Venter here just to see the rain, because it's the only way we can take a look at how wet this circuit is. You can see it on his windscreen as he tries to hound the back of that Bentley. He wants a top 9 place, not top 10's not good enough. But it's a difficult circuit to pass, but easy to push someone into a mistake. That seems to be 130R is where everyone having difficulty. Oh, Spoon, Bentley's going pretty wide through there. But it seems to, the narrow line doesn't have as good an exit, does it? And we saw that from Esser as well against the BMW. Bentley did get went wide on the entrance to Spoon, but good exit as they come out towards 130R. This is the tricky corner. Judging it as the darkness sets in as well. Felt like you could have used a bit more of the circuit there between these two. They didn't get on the curb whatsoever on exit. And here we come through the final chicane to complete another lap here. 20 laps into this race. And we're just about to come up to the halfway point. And it's going to be super interesting when some of our leaders come into pit. So let's just have a look at the lead. 7.1 seconds. It's relentlessly just chiseled away from Esser. It's not massive chunks coming out of the time, but that sort of nearly 12-second gap when Esser went into second position is now down to 7 seconds. So just gradually coming down. The last lap, Ross Bartle was a 209.9, and Essa actually took 1.1 seconds off him with a 208.8. And Essa's managed to set the fastest lap of the race since the last time we checked in on the times as well, with a 208.575, 10th quicker than Ross Bartle's fastest lap of the race. So it looks like towards the end of this 45 minutes, depending on, I mean, so much can happen, but it really does look like Essa has the legs to catch Bartle up here. And it's just whether Bartle's just holding something back and managing the gap, or whether this is all he has to give. There we go, 6.8 seconds the gap now. It is just constantly coming down in Essa's favour. And it might be that Bartle needs to get his pits. He wants to get into the pits and get a fresh set of tyres, possibly. Because, yeah, he's losing time. We can see Essa behind, look. That was on the straight. You can see the lights there. Essa will be able to see his Bartle in front of him as he comes to complete a lap. And then each lap that goes past, he'll see that gap closing. And there we go. Philip Minnaar's first one into the pits, followed by Hannes van Veek in 4th position. Very closely, in fact. So Philip Minnaar is the first one of our leaders to pit. And we'll just see whether this undercut can have an effect. He was held up by Chris Heineke, just could not find his way past. Until eventually he did at 130R. And now he's coming into the pit lane, along with Hannes van Veek and Marcus Steen. So they're our first runners to blink with the strategy calls. And it's definitely still raining as we see Bartle go past Aston Martin of either Jonathan Bentz or the other Bentz, Emily Bentz, in the Aston Martin. And we'll just ride on board to just check the weather again. That's our only way of checking the weather. There we go. Still enough to keep your windscreen wipers on and not enough to see a drying line, but certainly no spray, it would have to be said, when we go back to a closer gap on circuit. Let's just check that out as we head down to maybe Hardest Boyce in 11th position, who is only 7/10ths back from Francois Erasmus. Running in the top 10 now, with pit stops being made by some of our other top 10 riders. It elevates a few into the top 10. And one of those being Francois Erasmus in the 139 McLaren. And we see as we ride on board here with Hardest Boyce, there is no spray coming off of the front of that McLaren in front of him, is there? It's not affecting his visibility whatsoever. So certainly the track is damp, but not dry. And hopefully we'll get a drying line before the end of this race, because that will certainly be interesting to see whether it changes anything in lap times and whether certain brands benefit from that more than others. So the gap at the front now is only 6.2 seconds between Essa and Bartle, and a further 20 seconds from Chris Heineke. So once Heineke eventually got passed by Essa, Essa's managed to stretch a 20-second lead over him in sort of half a stint. So it just shows you how much that BMW just struggled possibly in these conditions. Definitely feel like the tyres maybe not an ideal operating window for Chris Heineke. And Sean Shute in 4th place in his Lexus, who was battling earlier but is not pitted yet. Paul Venter, also not pitted, is now up into the top 5. Sas van der Westhuizen is elevated into the top 10 as well before the pit stops. We've had Lawrence Sturner, Victor Filter, Hardest Boyce in the pit lane right now from 12th, 13th, 14th positions. Philip Minnaar is our current leader from the pit windows, and Marcus Steen is out as well. So Minnaar is vital that he gets the hammer down. He wants to cement his place over Chris Heineke at the very minimum, but whether he can actually gain time on Essa with fresh tyres to try and claw back some of that deficit between his championship rival. If he can get ahead of Essa, there's a good possibility Bartel could play a big role here as a sister grumpy monkey driver for the championship standings in Philippe Minard and how important that is. So he really only needs to get past Essa, and this is his opportunity to do it with an undercut. So we'll keep an eye as we jump quickly on board with Philippe Minard. He's coming out to the hairpin right now. We want to look at his lap times to see how that fares versus Essa. Is he gaining any time? He's certainly got a nice clear track in front of him, and that wasn't the case last round out. Back markers played a huge part, but we've got a slightly shorter field and a longer circuit here, which is going to benefit how you get past back markers. And Philippe Minard's had an early pit stop, and he's come out into a very nice window, favourable window. Got Fridge Finley in front of him, but not enough to affect him at all. And obviously he'll be hoping they pile into the pit shortly anyway. So we're super interested to see the first flying lap of Philippe Minard and what lap time it is. So to give you some context before we get there, as Philippe Minard comes through 130R, Zyress's last lap time was a pretty superb lap, a 2:08.485. In fact, it's his fastest lap of the race. So Esser's flying right now. Ross Bartel did a 2:09 flat, 0.6 slower, which is why the gap's only 5.5. So what's Philippe Minard's first lap? Here we go as he crosses the line. 2:08.8. It's not enough. It's 0.4 slower than Esser. It's quick. It's quicker than the leader, but it's not as quick as Zyressa is right now on used tyres. So we've seen it can take a couple of laps just to get those tyres into an operating temperature and try and bed them in. So Philippe Minard needs to go quicker than that. He needs to drop some time. We'd expect the track to start getting quicker as this rain lightens up, and eventually we get a bit of a drying line. Whether you factor that into your pit stop window with pressures and tyre temperature to help tyre temperatures later on in the race. Rain update continues to decrease in 3 minutes and 10 minutes. So it's just gradually stopping. It's just, we're going to run out of minutes. That's the problem, Warren Smith. Only 38 minutes left of this race. If we get a dry finish, it's might not be until right at the death at this rate, but the track's dry enough that, I mean, you could be on slick tyres quite comfortably, I feel, with no spray whatsoever on cars in front. Philippe Minard's already starting to flash. Fridge Finley in front of him, but I don't think he's just going to pull out of the way for you, Philip. Oh, maybe he is. In fact, he did indeed. How generous of him, as just piles out of the way to let Philippe Minard pass. And let's see what Zyressa's lap time. Bit slower that time from Essa, 2:08.757. So that matches Philippe Minard though, almost to half a tenth. And he's going long. He's going very long. In fact, all of our two leaders, in fact, Bartel, Essa and Heineke, all going very, very long. And that might explain Heineke at the start just struggling a touch with heavy fuel. And it's just whether Ross Bartel can hold on. 4.5 seconds is the gap now. It's just constantly coming down with Essa. And looks like Philippe Minard might have just put in fastest lap of the race. He has indeed. 2:08.5 goes purple. So only 0.3 he's gaining over Essa on that lap though. He needs to punch in he needs to punch in these laps every single time to try and get back anything after this pit window. But I think what we're going to see is Essa do a splash and dash like we did in round 4 at Imola and save a huge... Oh, that was very close from Minard, as we've got Yellow Design Company, either Jonathan Bentz pulling out of the way. No, Bentz is in the pit, so it's the other Bentz pulling out of the way, trying to be helpful. But Emily Bentz there, it was indeed. Emily Bentz also ending Philippe Minard's race, but I don't think it was her fault whatsoever. It's just Minard probably just caught a little bit off guard. and manages to carry on, but possibly might be affecting lap times there. Let's have a look. Oh, we got Ross Bartels into the pits. Our leader has pitted in this race. Chris Heineke also in the pits. So Zaire Esser, at least temporarily, will take the lead of this race. Surely he can't close 4.5 seconds and do the masterful overcut and avoid a pass, because I think he's going to struggle to pass that Audi. It's one thing getting up behind, but as we saw with Chris Heineke, it took Zaire Esser a good 15-20 minutes to actually get the pass done, because that McLaren is so quick in the sectors that doesn't help you for passing. And he just struggled at the tail end in sector 3 for straight line speed, but it's just so quick in the twisty stuff. Sector 1 through the S's is mighty fast. So Chris Heineke, Bertus van Rensburg. Now, we saw in round 3 at Imola that a splash and dash was mighty favourable, and I reckon Ross Bartels done that, because he's back out on track before I even could see him in the pit. So there's no way he changed tyres. He's just done fuel. Possibly we could get a little bit of inside knowledge there. Roxanne Bartel, you're in chat. Did Ross change tyres, or was it a splash and dash? Because it's a very, very quick pit stop, and I think he's done the right thing if that is the case, because Esser is going to do that with only 34 minutes of this race. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Esser coming in for a splash and dash and carrying on for the end of this race. So he goes past to complete another lap to Zaire Esser, not ready, so he's fueled so heavy, and explains his mighty pace at the end of a session, 208.562 as the car lightens up and on old tyres. And Philip Minard has got no answer for that. 208.947 was his last lap of the race. And that's 4 tenths down on Zaire Esser. But what we really want to know is Ross Bartels' first flyer as he comes through Spoon. Now this is still his out lap, so we're going to have to wait one more lap to see what pace he's got. But if he's done a splash and dash, it's not really going to be any quicker, is it? Because he's not going to have the benefit of fresh rubber. He's just going to have a little bit more weight with fuel to get him to the end. So the overcut here is looking very ominous if that is the case, because Zaire Esser is currently the quickest car on the circuit, and there was only a 4.5 second gap between these two cars before the pit window opened for both of them. Oh, a bit sideways is Ross Bartel there through the final corner. And as he comes to complete his out lap, we've got to wait until the next lap through to see what he clocks as a first flyer. But I'm pretty sure that Ross Bartel took a splash and dash pit stop with 30 minutes to go. There we go, our weatherman's back. Rain clouds clear up in 10 minutes with very light rain, but still rain nonetheless. There's been a little bit like an English race here, isn't it? Just miserable. This is an English summer's day in Japan right now, and I have to get to this circuit. I've been booked to go to this circuit 2 years ago, and it got cancelled for COVID. Last year it got cancelled for COVID. This year I was supposed to go in September, cancelled for COVID. So one day I will get to Suzuka. It's on my list it's on my bucket list. It's going to happen at some point, but Japan's not the place to go at the moment. No, Roxanne Bartel's confirmed. Don't think he did a tyre change. I'm pretty sure he didn't do a tyre change. I think he just came in for fuel, and so I'm not expecting him to suddenly gain lap time. And unfortunately, he sort of needs to, because Zaire Esser is consistently quick. 209 flat was Esser's last lap through. So we're coming through hairpin now. We've still got Spoon to go, and then we're going to check to see what Ross Bartel's first proper flyer is. Philip Minard, in the meantime, had a very slow lap going through bat markers, 2:10.1. So lost a lot of time, did Philip Minard. It's not what he wants. He's seeing his championship contention just slip through his fingers with only 30 minutes to go in round 5. Could be all over as we go into the final round of the season. But he's going to push and push as much as he possibly can. But I think that Zaire Esser has got the measure of everyone here. 4.5 seconds was the gap when Ross Bartel pitted. And Esser's just going so long. Let's see whether Ross is coming in to complete a lap. He is indeed. So what's his first flyer gonna be? Needs to be a 2:08 minimum. 2:10.6 is not good enough. 1.6 seconds he lost that lap to Zayaressa. Can't have many more of those. And Esser won't even need to make the pass on circuit. He'll have it done already after the pit window. Obviously his pit stop's going to be slightly shorter because his splash and dash with every lap is going to be less. There's less fuel needs to be added to that car to get to the end of this race. So this is exactly what Esser did in round 4 at Imola. Run late, do a splash and dash, short pit window, gain 10 seconds or so on Philip Minnaar, and that was enough. First drive-through penalty of the evening goes to Bertus Jans van Rensburg, unfortunately. So that's our first drive-through for pushing track limits. I wonder whether that'll be a factor for some of our other drivers later on in this race. Possibly it will be. Now, Ross Bartels on a better lap now, 5 tenths up on his Delta. He's been given the hurry up. Maybe Roxanne's told him from comms, get your foot down. Come on, Ross, in your grumpy monkey Audi. You've got to put some flying laps in here, or Esser will have the pass done in the pit stops. He's 7 tenths up on his Delta, so he's on a really good lap now, finally, is Ross Bartels to come through Spoon. Still got Spoon to negotiate, 130R, and then the Casio chicane. And Zayaressa, in the meantime, had a bit of a slower lap as well, 2:09.735. So actually the track times have got slower, even with the rain lightening up. It's not helping track times whatsoever. Everyone's in the sort of 2:10s. Paul Venter is not pitted either. He's also pushing very, very late, but he's done a 2:13. As he comes through now, 2:11.2. So actually track times are actually increasing, which is the opposite of what we would think. So maybe as tyres, people sticking on their wet tyres from the start of this race, if this track does dry out too much, they could really wish they'd changed. But only 28 minutes to go. They're going to have to feel like there's a bit of tyre management going on here. Because you start on wet tyres, that's fine, and we saw at Imola, the splash and dash was fine on a dry track, on dry tyres, and then the splash and dash finish. But here we've got guys starting on wet tyres and splash and dash finish at the end without changing onto dries, because I think it's probably a slick track right now. Right on board with Esser, and we see a little bit of rain on the windscreen, but not much at all, and the track looks pretty dry in front. Not a huge dry line by any stretch of the imagination, but I imagine these tyres are cooking right now. At the end of this race, we're going to hear guys complaining about their tyre conditions. I'm pretty sure of it. So Ross Bartels' last lap was a 2:09.9. It sounds slow compared to what we've seen, but everyone's times have dropped. 2:09 flat, though, from Esser as he crosses the line. So another 9 tenths of a second taken out of Ross Bartels. From my calculations, I think Esser's done enough already. Unless he has a disaster of a pit stop, then I think he's going to come out, and he's our provisional leader of the race, but it might be our ultimate leader of the race after the pit window's finished. Sean Shooter in second position is also going very long with Paul Venter. A few drivers pushing their pit windows to the absolute max. Sean Bingham also in the top 5 and is not yet to pit. And Christy Seymour also in 7th position. Quite a few drivers pushing as far as they possibly can. Fridge Finley in 9th place. And all yet to pit. And there we go. Sean is the first one in the pits. So he finally blinked. The Lexus is run out of fuel and needs a splash and dash. But basically, S is just trying to get to the end, and he's got to pit. Just to remind you, in case you're new here, there is a mandatory pit stop. So he does have to pit at some point. But he doesn't have to take tyres. There's not a requirement to take tyres. So all he needs to do is go through the pit lane, put whatever fuel that he needs to finish this race, and continue. But nursing some pretty old rubber on a drying track is what could be difficult, but he'll be monitoring that time difference between him and Ross Bartels, I'm sure. will probably be more familiar than I am exactly on where he's coming out. But right now, if he just does a splash and dash, copies Bartel's strategy, regardless of how terrible those tyres feel, he's done enough as we see Alexis go off on the chicane and not quite rejoins the circuit, but doesn't affect S's completing of this lap, which is lap 29. He'll be coming to complete here of Suzuka with 25 minutes to go. And the real story is waiting for this 720S to come into the pit lane and what that will mean. But in the meantime, let's go back and have a look at some battles elsewhere. Looking at Lawrence Sterner, look how close he is to Sas van der Westhuizen. Super defensive is Sas van der Westhuizen, but looks like the BMW might just be able to drive all the way around the outside of turn 1 and 2. Very wide line, and they're going to be side by side through the S's. It's Sas van der Westhuizen and Lawrence Sterner. Oh, they got the switch back, and I think let's go back and ride on board with Sas van der Westhuizen to see what that looked like from his point of view. As we see a BMW switch back in front of him. Was there contact here between Lawrence Sterner and Sas van der Westhuizen? Oh, he got a little bit out of sorts, didn't he? Bit of a correction in turn 1 into turn 2. And there wasn't contact at all. He's just sort of really struggling for traction in that Ferrari. Look, constantly fighting the wheel is Sas van der Westhuizen, and he did lose the position in the end. And we'll go back to the action live here at Suzuka. So, good little battle there between Sas van der Westhuizen, who eventually lost out to Lawrence Sterner in the BMW and is currently running in 17th position. Has Essa pitted? No, he hasn't, but Paul Venter is in the pits. So S is going to be last to pit in this race. 23 minutes to go. How far can that McLaren go? It's been a strategy call of late for Zaire Essa on pushing the fuel limits of a McLaren 720S. And we said before that the stint just seems to come to him, but no surprise when he fuels so heavily from the start. But it just gets more and more comfortable as the race goes on. So he goes past to complete another lap. We don't want to miss that pit stop, but he's gone through, so we're going to go back through the field. Victor Filter in 9th place is 7/10 behind Chris Heineke. He's just really struggled. He was so good in qualifying, Chris Heineke, awesome in HLQ, but just in race pace, has just struggled in that BMW. Was held on to 2nd place for so long from Zaire Essa. And then Philippe Minard eventually got past him, but now he's under pressure just to try and keep in the top 10 tonight, is Chris Heineke with Victor Filter in 9th place, putting a lot of pressure on him in the Bentley. So Chris Heineke has just been looking in his rearview mirror a lot this evening, had 90 minutes, and maybe just the setup on that car not quite right for race conditions, or the race conditions that we've had tonight at least. And I feel like him dropping back that many places. As we see Victor Filter get the switch back, is he going to have this pass done? He's not. He drops back behind the BMW. I just think possibly Chris Heineke's lost time taking rubber in his pit stop window, because it just seems surprising to see him lose so many places to some of the guys around him. But then his lap times right now are not particularly quick compared to those around him. They're about level in the 2:11s. As he goes wide on 130Rs, could be another time where he loses a position at 130Rs. The Bentley, oh, not quite. That BMW power. And here we go. This is 130Rs. Before at Spoon that he went wide and the Bentley got right up to him. And he manages to get the plays back, but it was side by side there for quite a while between Victor Filter and Chris Heineke for 8th position. This is on circuit. Zaire Essa is still yet to pit. I'm still keeping a very close eye on that. 31 laps of this race gone and 21 minutes to go, with a mandatory pit stop still to be had by Zaire Essa. Ross Bartel in 2nd position has got his sister teammate Philippe Minard behind. Here we go. S is in the pits. This is what we've been waiting for. Zaire Essa is in the pits. I feel like he's done enough. Another 0.8 of a second on the last lap quicker than Ross Bartel. It was 4.5 seconds was the gap that Bartel had over Esser when he pitted, but that feels like so long ago at this point that Zayar has finally come into the pit lane, and he's done the massive overcut on him. It's going to be a very short splash and dash. Where is Ross Bartel? Already Esser's going. Oh, Bartel's miles behind. He's only coming through Spoon. He's got to go all the way through 130R on the chicane. This is going to be so easy as Zayar Esser exits the pit lane. It's not even close. Esser, what a stint that was. What a push that was. Shows you the time that he gained over on that overcut. And the quick splash and dash. And we see only just coming through the chicane, Ross Bartel, yet to complete the lap. And Esser's already through turn 1. So a massive lead from Zayar Esser. And he can just nurse those tyres to a finish. They might be hurting as the track dries out. But with 19 minutes to go, it looks like another masterclass and a good strategy call. 31 seconds. Look at the gap. Zayar Esser 31. I thought he had it covered pretty easily, but I had no idea it was that much. It's 31 second from Ross Bartel as that very, very short pit stop from Esser from a quick splash and dash is probably going to see him win this round 5, and with it give him the championship. The Sim Racing SA 2022.1 championship will go to Zayar Esser if he gets his 4th win tonight, and the 1 second place. He can afford to have his final drop round in round 6. So, no, the gap's 23. I thought that was too much, but as they go through the sector time, it's just shortened to 23. But it's still a huge, huge lead for Zayar Esser over Ross Bartel. And Philip Minar's behind, and it doesn't benefit him whatsoever for Bartel to give up those points, because it will just be for purely nothing. 18 seconds back from Bartel's Audi R8. It's Philip Minar. Could get a podium, but and it's still been a great result and a superb season from Philip Minar to push Zayar Esser so close, but it's not going to be enough with 18 minutes to go unless some absolute bizarre happening with Escom or some load shedding or something, or internet drop from Esser. Just needs to try and keep his car on the black stuff for 18 minutes, and this could be enough. So let's go back and look at some other battles. Hannes van Veek. Look how close this is. No, he's half a second back, and it's a back marker. I was getting very excited, but it was a back marker he was going through. So Hannes van Veek is half a second back from Sean Shooter, and he's got another back marker. That's a Benz car in front. So I think he's actually got past Sean. He has indeed. So Hannes van Veek will go up to 4th. There we go. Live timing's not being live. So our leaderboard has changed. Hannes van Veek did get the pass done. So we had a change for the top 4 there. Paul Venter, also pushing very long, has benefited massively from it, because after the pit window's over, he finds himself in 6th position. It's a very solid result here for Paul Venter. Marcus Stain in 7th place. And his teammate now behind him in Chris Heineke, just struggled in this race, driving defensively to keep guys behind him, but it's just taken its toll a little bit. And possibly that pushing at the start of this race just cooked his tyres so much. We hear that the rain clears up completely in 10 minutes. It's going to leave us with pretty much nothing left, though, isn't it, Warren? So we'll finish in the dry. And we're probably going to have some very, very cooked tyres, as some of these lap times have really struggled. Oh, I just see a lap time of... oh, no, that'll be explained by... It's still Zayar Esser's outlap. I was thinking that was quite slow. It's his outlap, obviously, from his pit window, 2:17.9. But everyone's lap time's not improving at all, considering that the track will be... You would have expected to be coming to them as the rain lightens up. But I think everyone on some very cooked... wet tyres at this point, if they've just done a quick splash and dash and carried on through. Let's have a look at some gaps. We've got Brandon in 11th position, still yet to pit, 16 minutes to go. Someone know, does he know that he's got to do a pit stop? Hopefully at some point he will, but we see the one next to his name, and the only guy without a green banner it means that he hasn't done his mandatory pit stop yet, so he will be coming in shortly. Surely he's going to run out of fuel as he goes a little bit off in Degner 1. Let's have a look through a few more of these gaps. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost Jonathan Bentz, who's parked his car in the pit lane with a bit of a... Both Bentz in the pit lane, unfortunately, so a bit of a spectator here, so I'm not quite sure what happened with those guys. I'll have to catch up with them maybe after the race. Fridge Finley in 18th position. I'm just trying to go through here. I've usually got someone else doing this for me, so bear with me a little bit. Here we go. Here's a battle. Victor Filter against Chris Heineke. It's less than half a second, way less than half a second. Don't believe the live timings, because that will update as they cross the line. And looks like Brandon's going to be pitting with only 5 minutes to go, because he's just going to wait until his tank's empty. Maybe just one lap before the tank's empty would be advised, but hopefully he can get to the end. But really pushing that overcut and splash and dash finish. We'll see where he finishes when he finally does pit. He's got guys relatively close behind him, so I'm expecting him to maybe go down to about 15th position. Just looking at lap times, if he pits now, he'll probably come out in for a top 15. So yeah, that'll be a good result regardless. Let's keep an eye on this battle here. We've been looking at Chris Heineke a lot this evening, and it's always, unfortunately, him under pressure from the car behind. And this time it's in the form of Victor Fulter in the 643 Bentley. And as they come up towards... Oh no, that's also for position of Marcus Steyn in front and his teammate here. So it's a very difficult place for Chris Heineke to be. He's got his teammate in front of him, and he's got Victor Filter behind, and all of them within a second. Oh, there's contact between teammates there, I think. Let's go back. Was there contact? Was there contact between the two teammates? There was. Chris Heineke just gave his teammate a little bit of a love tap up the rear, and it looks like Victor has managed to gain past both of them, has he? No, he hasn't. He's got past one. He got past Marcus Steyn. Steyn dropped 2 places there with the tap, but he didn't get past Chris Heineke, but he might do now as they come up to the drag to 130R. This might be a pass here, side by side through 130R. Looks like the BMW's got the pace. We've seen it all night. Chris Heineke out so quick in this section. Bentley drops back behind. Yeah, that BMW so fast through there, and he's gone wide. He's gone very wide as Chris Heineke, and the Bentley's going to try look on the outside of the chicane. It's not going to be enough through there, no way. Drops back. Now he's between the 2 BMW teammates in 8th position, but he wants 7th, does Victor Filter. And he's going to long drag down in the Bentley, tuck in behind the BMW. Quite hard to tuck in behind anything in that big boat. But he tries his best to catch any sort of slipstream that he can through turn 1 and 2. And we saw we see Marcus Steyn in the background getting very sideways in his. Managed to keep hold of it though. And Victor Filter is trying to put pressure on these S's. And this is where Chris struggled earlier with Esser. Doesn't like this section. Just that BMW looks a handful through here. But it's just so quick through 130R on the final straight that this Bentley doesn't seem to have an answer for that pace. Let's quickly go on board now to see how close he is to the BMW in front of Chris Heineke and the 96 BMW through Degner 1. Here's through Degner 2. They go under the bridge towards the hairpin. Definitely not a pass through here. He's going to have a look on the inside though. Oh, he really is going to have a look. He's going to force him wide. I said there wouldn't be a pass. It's not a usual place to pass, and it's not going to be. The BMW out drags him out of the hairpin. Tried to force him wide. Could have maybe done a bit of a better job of that, but I think you're just wary of making any sort of contact whatsoever in ACC, just for the pinball physics that you get and you don't want a penalty coming your way. So rather thinks better of it, does Victor Filter. Thinks he's going to get another chance and tucks back behind. But this BMW is such a beast through here that Chris Heineke just stretches his legs and manages to carry on. At the front, Zyressa is just coasting along easily. It's going to be quite an easy win for him at this rate. 10 minutes to go. He just needs to keep it facing forward. Ross Bartle, superb return from Ross Bartle in a different car. It's nice to see him back at the sharp end of the field. And he's locked on for a solid podium with his sister teammate in Philip Minarm, the other Grumpy Monkey car. Hannes van Veek having a great race too in 4th position. In fact, I just see a purple name next to Hannes van Veek. What was his last lap time? He's got the fastest lap of the race all of a sudden. Hannes van Veek 207.847. What a lap from seemingly nowhere for Hannes van Veek, who is going to take home. If only you got a point for that. Possibly we could add that for next season. I see quite a few leagues doing that. I quite like that idea. Anyway, in the meantime, Victor Fulter just pounding on the pressure through these S's section where Chris Heineke struggled all night long. And as they come up towards Paul Venter, this could be a 3-way battle for 6th position shortly. Looks like Chris Heineke he drives so well when he's being pushed from the car behind. Then when the pass made, he just seems to just give up time afterwards. But he's getting pushed along here by Victor Fulter and is quickly tracking down Paul Venter in 6th position in the 42 BMW. So like I said, this could very easily be a 3-way race for 6th place. And that's another look. Oh, and there's contact. Unfortunately, contact there from Paul Venter. Had a very big look up the hairpin again. And he's waited for Chris Heineke to rejoin. That's exactly what we want to see. Let's go and have another look exactly what happened there. So here we go. And we saw it in the previous lap. I said it's not really a place where you're going to get a clean pass unless you push your way in forcefully. And that's exactly what he tried in the previous lap. He tries it again here, look. Forced his way up, contact's made, Chris Heineke spun round, and yeah, that's a bit of a shame, but he pulls over very nicely, waits for Chris Heineke to rejoin on circuit, and they can carry on their battle, hopefully towards the end of this race. So they did lose to Stefan Herbst, who managed to sneak 2 places there, dropped back to 8th and 9th position, so they both lost 1 position because of that contact. But Victor Filter did wait for Chris to rejoin, so nice to see that happening. And I think Brandon's out of pit lane, hasn't he? Yeah, he's out in 17th place. So our final guy to pit finally did come through. A couple of places less than where I thought he would be, but Brandon's back out on circuit in 17th position. And yeah, he was the last of our late runners. So a lot of guys trying to push this race as far as they possibly can. Just take a quick look on board at the weather conditions of Zyressa. Still very light rain. It's been quite consistent throughout this race. Like I said, nice British summer's day. We'll be having a braai right now. If this was the UK in July. And because this is what you get, just a constant drizzle for 12 hours. Not the Kailami monsoons that we see over here. But yeah, it's been consistently wet throughout the whole of qualifying and throughout the whole of this race, and lap times have been consistent as well, sort of 208s to 210s throughout the whole race. It hasn't really come to them, and if anything, I think people are nursing some very old tyres now, one of which being Zyressa. As we come across the line, he was 2 minutes 12.1 as he crossed that line, so lost a huge amount of time, but he's got a lot of time in his hand, so I think he's very much just waiting for the checker flag to come to him and just trying to nurse those tyres as much as he possibly can. Ross Bartle's actually seeing some pretty good pace right now, but it's a little bit late for that as he's 34 seconds behind our leader. And Hannes van Veek, who at least can go home with, if he can't get a podium, go home with that purple badge next to him of the fastest lap of the race with a 207.847. So apparently, Warren, our weatherman, it's very nice to have a weatherman, thanks for your services tonight, Warren, has said light rain back just to continue to the end. So it looks like we're going to have an entire race, even with 3 times progression, which was wet. Never very heavy, just light rain. It was what the forecast was. I was just thinking possibly it might relinquish at some point, but that wasn't the case. So they've had to deal with quite consistent, but at least dealing with consistent weather is a lot easier than dealing with changeable conditions. So they haven't had to deal with super monsoon, and they've managed to cope with it quite nicely. Let's have a look back here at Paul Venter. He's got Stefan Herbst very close behind him in that very menacing looking McLaren 223 McLaren 720S. Blacked out with a yellow glow-in-the-dark stripe and blue lights up the side of the windscreen. Looking very svelte and quick, doesn't it? Almost looks like a different category worth of car, that 720, compared to a big old boat that is the BMW, which with its ugly mouth grille, I'm sorry, I'm not quite a fan. It hasn't grown on me so much, I'm afraid, compared to the McLaren. But under a lot of pressure here is Paul Venter as they come through Degner 1. And this is Degner 2, isn't it? Yeah, and Sparks coming off the back of that BMW and getting hounded here. Now, got to be careful into this chicane, please. Stefan, be careful through here. No contact. And he does negotiate that through very carefully. In fact, he has an awesome exit. We know how quick this BMW is. They're going to come up to Spoon, and the pass is done. I think the pass is done here. It is indeed. Paul Venter drops back behind. Stefan Herbst says, thank you very much. I will take 6th place from you any day of the week. Works his way through Spoon. Great pass. See, that was very well planned out through the hairpin. Rather decided to cut back, stay very, very tight behind, and looks like Paul Venter has no answer for the pace of Stefan Herbst in that 720S. I do wonder whether he's on different tyres, because a lot quicker. In fact, Venter's last lap was 3 seconds slower, so he's going to be under pressure shortly from Victor Filter. But he's trying to fight his way back, and they're side by side through the chicane. Oh, this could be a problem for this McLaren to stay ahead down this straight. Oh, contact between these two. Paul Venter gets Victor Filter. Oh, we're going to go back and have a look at this one, haven't we? Let's go back on board with a helicam. I think we're going to need helicam here. So we see how far back they are. And we see Paul Venter coming to have another go at the chicane. But on the inside line, you're never going to work your way through there. And this is where he loses a lot of time. And then all of a sudden, Victor Filter thinks, I've got it. Gets a bit squirmish. They sort of meet each other in the middle, don't they? And unfortunately, Victor Filter comes off worse. Whoever that was behind had a squeaky bum moment as they come around the corner and there's a Bentley sideways across the track, not quite holding its brakes. So Victor Filter, unfortunately, drops back. He's still in the top 10, but only narrowly in 10th position. And we've got Marcus Steyn all of a sudden dropped down into 23rd position with a drive-through as well. So what on earth has happened to Marcus Steyn, who was riding right up there with his teammate in the top 10, but has had some disaster occur to him, and he's received a drive-through penalty and is in 23rd position. So we won't find out what happened to him until after the race, I'm afraid. But only 2 minutes to go until we conclude here this evening, round 5 at Suzuka. And yeah, something bad has happened to Marcus Steyn. Chris Heinecker is still carrying on, though, in 8th position as the next person to try and get past Paul Venter. He's going backwards now, but Steyn's not going to do it by going so wide at Spoon. He lost a lot of time there. Super wide through Spoon, but it looks like Paul Venter is really struggling in this BMW. Those tyres must be going well off, because no matter what, I mean, Chris Heinecker had a nightmare through Spoon, and look, he hasn't really lost any time whatsoever. So I think Paul Venter is really struggling to keep this car pointing forward, and Chris Heinecker is finally going to work a place past rather than going backwards, and he's going to do it through the chicane, is he? Side by side through the chicane. Venter's got the inside line. BMW power versus BMW power. Venter's just struggling to keep that car facing anywhere but forwards. And they're side by side now. I mean, how close are they? Let's go on helicam. Looks like Heinecker has got it. He's got it easily, actually. If he doesn't go too wide in turn 1, Venter's going to come back of turn 2. It's not enough. Chris Heinecker has got the place. He used all of the circuit there and then some. Thankfully not enough to get any sort of drive-through penalty like his teammate, but he's worked a place back finally. Some good driving from Chris Heineke as we see another BMW really struggle for some reason. Looks like these BMWs are hard to get into the correct window because their pace just seems to be all over the place, as Paul Venter is going backwards right now and is 8th position. So we just heard that Zayaressa is on the final lap of the race. He did pass the line, so this will be the final lap of this race. And what a race it's been. It's been some close racing throughout. Saw Essa start from sort of 3rd position on the grid and working his way through. Took a long time to get through Chris Heineke, and it had Ross Bartle getting a sort of 11 to 12 second lead by the time that Essa finally passed Heineke into 2nd position. And we didn't know whether it would be enough of a gap. It turned out not at all, because Bartle, when they did pit, was 4.5 seconds ahead of Essa in the window. And Essa just pushed long. He went longer, carried on going past the pit lane, one lap after the other, kept going past. Eventually, when he did come into pit, he'd done enough on the massive overcut and come out with 25-second lead over Ross Bartle, cemented that position, and then just continued to grow it. Now, in the last few laps, he's just been nursing nursing his tyres to get to the end. And he will finish with a 30-second or so lead over Ross Bartle in 2nd place if he can just complete this lap. And it'll be his 4th win of the season, with his 2nd place at Snetterton, I believe, and that will be enough with a drop round for the final round to give him the championship result here for SimRace South Africa. So a massive congratulations to Zayaressa once again for taking the ACC SRSA 2022.1 season. Put that on his CV, along with his long list of other accolades he's achieved in sim racing over the years, both here and abroad. He's a good export for us, Zayaressa. Seen he's done well on the international scene as well, as a monumentally quick sim racer in Assetto Corsa, and then when we moved on to Assetto Corsa Competition, it took a little bit of time for him to find his feet in this sim, but he certainly found them, and that's a great win for the season. I think he'll be very pleased that Escom just allowed him enough time to get that qualifying lap in, so very well done to Zayaressa to take the win. Ross Bartle, nothing to be taken away from Ross Bartle. He led our HLQ all week long and took a fantastic pole position right at the end, and it was a good 2/10 as well as he switched into the Audi Evo 2. Superb driving from Ross Bartle. Just wasn't quite enough over a 90-minute session in these conditions, but I think overall he's going to be very happy with a return to the podium in Ross Bartle in 2nd position. So nice to have you back, Ross. Congratulations. Philip Minard's been superb all season and will pick up another podium in 3rd place here at Suzuka, but that will be the end of his championship contention. And he'll be looking to try and cement his 2nd place as we go into the final round of the season. Hannes van Veek, we've not seen much of him tonight, but he's just been superb this season, and he just keeps getting better and better as he gets a top 5 finish. He will finish in 4th position, basically on his own in the Aston Martin. So look at that. We've had a McLaren, Audi, Mercedes AMG, Aston Martin, Lexus, 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. If anyone was saying this wasn't a balanced sim, there you go. There's 5 different cars. There's no one car dominating, and that's exactly what we want to see going into next season. We'd like to see a good mixture of brands throughout the grid, and Hannes van Veek will be the fastest Aston Martin of the night as he comes through to complete. He's still got quite a ways to go. No, he's already finished, sorry, 4th position. Sean Shooter in 5th place, though. I was just surprised that Hannes van Veek's still pounding around. He doesn't realise he's actually finished already. Stefan Hertz in 6th. He's like, I'll have a few more laps, 90 minutes isn't long enough. Chris Heineke did finish in 7th place. Very well done to him. He drove superbly in the first stint. Soaked up so much pressure, but in the end it wasn't enough to keep those guys behind. So he snuck back. Paul Venter, I think, gets 8th position. Sean Bingham 9th, and Victor Filter will complete the top 10. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us here at SimRace South Africa for round 5 at Suzuka. And that will be a wrap for tonight. I'm just going to see possibly whether we've got a few guys. I'm a bit short-staffed. Let's see whether I can jump into the off-air section. Okay, looks like I need to change some audio settings here. See whether I can do that so we can get a chat with some of our drivers. So... Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, good. Sorry, I haven't got Nick with me tonight, so I'm trying to do all sorts. We're here now to chat with our 3 guys. Ross Bartle, first of all, I want to have a chat to you. It's nice to have you back, mate, at the sharp end of the grid. You've ditched that terrible BMW, and it seems like an inspired decision. Feeling more at home in the Audi?
A lot more. I think it's just more suited to me, to be honest.
Yeah, clearly.
I think it is a quicker car around here. I think people know that. But yeah, it's just better in it.
I'm wondering whether you inspire a sort of Audi Cup seat for next season, because yeah, you've really turned it around. You topped HLQ in the week, and pole position went well, and then you had a good start to the race. But what happened?
I think just sort of towards the end, just getting a bit tires were getting a bit tired,
Yeah.
actually. So I struggled towards the end, made a few small mistakes. And then I was kind of forced into the stop in my head to make a decision: slicks or no slicks, and chose slicks. So yeah.
Oh, so you did change. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, Roxanne said that you thought you didn't change, so I was just taking a guess whether you didn't or not. So that's the next question. Esther, did you change rubber or did you push through with your splash and dash?
Yeah, I just kept the wets on and kept going.
I thought so, because the gap was... I thought you'd done enough, because we were very closely looking at the lap times, and you were 4.5 seconds behind Ross when you went into the pit window, and then you came out sort of 25 seconds ahead. So I think you had enough, even if you decided to change, because looking from my calculations, you should have been a few seconds ahead. But all of a sudden, you're that far ahead. But at this point, we thought Ross had done a splash and dash as well. But clearly, that wasn't the case. So there you go. How was it? Those tyres must have felt pretty rough, though.
Yeah, they were finished by the end. So I filled longer to go longer, see what had happened with the weather. And I was just keeping my tires in check because I knew, what you didn't know what was going to happen towards the end of the stint. And I saw that ACC said it gives you a little indication like slick tires optimum.
Yeah.
But like there was no way. It was too wet. My tires weren't even overheating yet. It was all good. So I said, screw it. I'm going to the end. I only got 20 minutes left on these tires. Let's Vin Diesel them right to the end. And then at least I had a proper gap so I could take it easy to the end. And then I think Ross had a spin, so it made it a lot easier.
And we saw at the start, you struggled to get past Chris for a little while, who was just that BMW so bloody fast in a straight line, isn't it? You were pounding him in the corners, but trying to get a pass there is difficult.
It was tricky. I had to look up at the lap counter to make sure it wasn't the final lap, the way things were going. So he was defending quite hard, and it was a good race, I guess. But it didn't make much sense, because after I passed him, Ross was like 12 seconds up the road. But yeah, all good fun.
No, Chris kept a few people behind him, and after you got past, it was Philip Minard. So Philip Minard, you were stuck behind Chris as well for a while. How was it in the Mercedes?
Quite. It felt like the longest battle of my life, because I kept on outbraking him into the hairpin, into the Degnos, and 130R was, I don't know what he did there, but he was insane there.
No, chief defensive driver, and 130R, I think he had some sort of extra boost button, I think, Fast and Furious button, because it was the same with Esther. He was just struggling to, that section, that Beamer was just so fast.
I don't know how he braked that late for 130 at the start, but yeah, that was a lacquer fight to start the first 15 laps, first 10 laps was so good. It was a bit hairy at the start, a bit of a hectic start, with all 4 of us trying to catch Ross. But yeah, I really enjoyed that race, and yeah.
Superb. Well, I think from my calculations, obviously you've had your drop round already, Philip, and you've been superb since you've gone into the Mercedes AMG, and you've really pushed Esther for the last sort of 4 rounds, so we've really enjoyed watching it. But Sire Esther, I do believe that is another Sim Race South Africa title. So congratulations on your simGT win for this season, because I think that's 4 wins in a second. So final round, are you going to do a victory parade, or are you going to join me in comms?
Yeah, we'll see. I've actually joined another league that has a clash on the next race. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh, so it was important to get it wrapped up with a race to go.
Glad I got it wrapped up today. It's pretty awesome. But I mean, I don't understand that because all these tracks are like Merc and PM tracks, and I finally get to a Paul Ricard track with him. McLaren is going to be much quicker, and I'm ditching it. So
you've had some good battles, especially in the last few rounds against Philip. So you've had something to enjoy.
It's been enjoyable. It's been enjoyable, yeah.
Superb. So congratulations to you. And Philip, you still got a bit of work to do, mate, because you can't miss the next round. So that's another thing I need to ask you. So a bit pushing it with Escom, were you? I mean, you just snuck in there just to start third. I mean, you got to...
That was so tough. Like, I had obviously no practice or anything, no sight or nothing. I had to jump in and I had 4 laps to get it right. And thank God the setup was okay, tire pressure was okay, and I just managed to get up there, and I knew the race was just about a strategy, so it was all good. Thank God I made this race. So, being Escom, I pulled some strings.
Yeah, I think it's a bit sneaky, that is, really, to be honest. To the detriment of your teammate, I believe.
Yeah,
Poor old Bashir was in chat on his lap. Yeah, he didn't even have power on his laptop to watch you. He only watched half the race before his laptop went dead, and he was just sat in the dark, bless him. So he'll be hopefully back for round 6 to fly the Masterclass flag. Philip Minnaar will see you and Ross Bartle, I'm sure, back for the final round. And you've got to try and cement that second place. So a bit of work to do, mate.
Yep, and yep.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully you and Ross can help each other out. And then, Ross, I think you're going to be a force to be reckoned with for the next season. I guess it's going to take a lot to pull that Audi away from you right now.
Probably, but you know what it's like. Just before the season, we'll check on the other cars and see what's best. So yeah.
Sometimes you can't help yourself. Okay, thanks, guys.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure. Good drive from all of you.
Cheers.
Just Daniel.
So that will bring an end to proceedings here this evening. Thanks so much for joining us here at SimRace South Africa. And let me just confirm, I haven't been able to confirm a lot tonight without having someone else. But the final round of the season, round 6, will be on June 13th. And that is Paul Ricard, which had a superb... It was the race of the year last time out. So we'll be very much looking forward to round 6, Paul Ricard, the final round of the season, and who can finish those top places. Philip Minnaar, can he get second place? He sort of deserves it, but he really needs to pull out everything, including some electricity possibly. So hopefully we get a full round next time. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you back here at SimRace South Africa. I thank you for your company, and we'll see you